today we will be doing Adobe Camera Raw and selective layer masking and coloring. So everything we did in Lightroom, for those of you that purchased the entire series, all of that I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing in Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop, and then also a few cool little Photoshop tricks on how to get certain areas of your photo colored selectively and a way that isn't as easy in Lightroom. So I'm going to launch Photoshop. I don't need Lightroom at all for this. Alright, and the first photo is going to be Bow Lake, so I'm just going to drag it over to Photoshop and it'll load, and automatically it's going to bring up Camera Raw. So all of this, it looks a lot different from Lightroom. It might look intimidating because it is a whole new thing that you feel like you might have to learn, but it is the exact same thing. So over here is like the basic tab, and all of these are just like Lightroom, like tone curve, detail, HSL, split toning, lens corrections, which real quick I'm going to do. Lens, yep. Effects, calibration, presets, and snapshots. And then up here there's a few things like brush, this to pick your color picker tool and white balance tool, your filters, your red eye, your ruler and cropping. So it's the same thing, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, just so you guys know the general layout and that you can accomplish the same things. This photo I did underexpose because I wanted all this detail in the clouds to stay detail, which is fine because I knew I wasn't going to print this photo, so I knew that I could just bump the exposure in post as I'm doing. Just do general, edit, and down here you can see before, after. I'm going to put a little bit of clarity, a little bit more contrast. I'll make sure those highlights stay. Bring up the vibrance, and then I'm going to come over here to HSL, play with the colors a little bit. There's a really nice blue in this water, but then it gradients to green and then brown up here, and really not a big fan of that. So for the general blues I'm going to go a little aqua, but I'm going to be careful because of the sky. I don't want to affect too much. Then the aquas, bring over just a touch. The greens, I'm going to leave for now, and I'll kind of fix this water up later. But I'm definitely going to bring up the saturation of the water. I really want the water to shine through in this image. So before, after, I think that's a really nice start. Up this here in the clouds and the sky, it's still a little too exposed for my liking, so I'm going to bring a graduated filter, just kind of bring that down a little bit. And perfect. Yeah, I think that looks better. Alright, so now that our image is loaded in Photoshop, so Photoshop is an extremely intimidating application and software, and for a very long time I didn't use it, and if I did use it, it was I watched a tutorial for exactly what I wanted to do, and then I did it right then, and then I never used it again, and up until maybe 6 months ago I've been really getting into Photoshop, and I absolutely love it, and there's so much you can do with it. So for today we're going to be doing a little bit of selective coloring to try to clean up this water, make that a little bit nicer. There's many ways you can do this. So I'm going to just Command J, and that will duplicate my background layer. I am going to make a selection with the quick selection tool, and I'm just going to get a rough outline of the water, and this does not need to be perfect. So I just was clicking and dragging, and some places like the tree it went over, so to negate that I'm going to do Alt and drag. I'm just going to do pretty rough selection for the most part, because for this what I'm going to do is going to be with such a light opacity that really doesn't need to be that perfect. make sure none of this land is getting touched. And that looks good. And Bree, who is in frame, I do not want to be in the selection because I'm going to be pretty much coloring the water, and I don't want to color her. And when you see the size of the selection tool moving, it is the bracket keys is what I'm using right above the return key. So you can kind of make it smaller, make it bigger, whatever you want to do. So that's a good rough selection. And come back to my cursor. And what I can do is I can click Command C, Command V, and now what I did is I have a selection of relatively just the water. And now that I have that, I can come back up to Camera Raw filter, which is a really amazing filter that Photoshop has, because it's pretty much throwing your photo back into Lightroom, but you can just do it for these parts, which is really, really nice actually. So I'm just going to play with the white balance till I get a color I like a little bit more. You can add some dehaze, get some saturation, add some vibrance, and you can see the before and after. And that I think looks awesome. So before, after, and as you can see with the trees, I was very choppy with my selection because I felt like I wasn't going to need it. All these high texture areas blend pretty well, and I don't even think you can really notice anywhere that I had just made a selection and colored that selection. So that's one really cool tool. So if you really just want to kind of just edit part of your photo and it has a relative outline that's pretty clear like this, super easy. And like with Bree, so if I had kept her in the selection, she would be blue and green now. Sorry, she would be blue and green now. So it was definitely, you got to make sure you mask people out when you do stuff like that. But I think it's a super cool little trick, and I use it pretty frequently in my photos. I think I am going to do one more selection, similar to the last one, but slightly different. So we got the bottom half, and I'm going to try to get this blue water not chosen, because I really want to focus on this part of the water that isn't the most ideal color. I'm going to get out some of this so that will help blend it easier. And it already knows I did not want Bree to be selected. Perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing, copy and paste. And now you can see what I'm working with. Come back up to Camera Raw filter. And just for this, make this blue, put some greens in there. We'll see how this looks. It might need, I was kind of worried. Yeah, you can see kind of a difference there. So let me undo that and come back in. It's this black line of the separation in depth of the water that I think is throwing it off. So I'm going to go back to where I did, and then the blacks. Bring up. Shadows bring up. And then general exposure bring down just a little bit. It's a little bit smoother, I think, for sure. But this top part still has a little bit of brightness. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to layer mask this. So that's this key right here. And what a layer mask does is it's pretty much if you have a layer of something you did in your photo and you wanted to take parts of it out or put parts of it in, that's what a layer mask will be used for. So right now a layer mask by default is white. So now if I take a black brush and I brush on the white layer mask, it's going to pretty much erase what I just did. So you can see it just erased everything. I'm going to undo that. Alternatively, on a layer mask, if I do Command I just inverted my mask to black, and what that does is now the effect that I did went away. So in some cases where you want to just brush in slightly, you can click X or toggle between these to get a white brush, and then you're going to be painting white onto the black layer mask, and you'll just be brushing in that color. So I don't feel the need to do it on an inverted mask because I want to just take this top part of highlights out slightly. So I'm going to come back to my white layer mask with the black brush, just at like maybe 20% opacity. Just kind of, you can really see the separation when I hide some of those layers. So just want to kind of feather this in so the separation is easier and less noticeable. So I'm just going back and forth, 20% opacity, clicking every few seconds, so if I have to undo parts of it, it's just one undo. So I think that definitely helps. So disable. It's before, it has that kind of strong highlight line. Then that just makes it just a little bit more smooth. And you can still see that there is definitely a separation in the water from the depth. So for the final photo, I'm going to make a merge visible layer, and what that is a layer where all layers that are visible under it merge into a fresh layer. So I'm going to do Command, Option, Shift, E, and I'm on a Mac, and that pretty much this layer 4 includes everything below it. So now if I turn these off, I can see before, after. And this before, granted, did have the edits that we did in Adobe Camera Raw, but after, that water looks so much better. So I really am happy with this image. Alright guys, so for the second image, we're going to do one more photo of Bow Lake, so drag and drop it, but this one is from the road. So that really cool blue turquoise lake is right here, and I just thought this was a cool image, and it had a different perspective on the lake in general, and this was actually shot on an 85mm, so the compression of the road against these huge mountains I think is just really cool, and it kind of shows the scale of how just insane the Canadian Rockies really are. So slightly underexposed, but same thing. I wanted all pixel detail to be in the shot. I didn't want anything to be overexposed, so I'm going to up the exposure quite a bit. So for photos like this, when I know I underexposed, just a little side note, I am completely fine with underexposing them when I know that I can bump up the shadows and the exposure. If I'm going to be making a print of a photo, I will not do that, because when you bring up the exposure and shadows so much, you're going to be adding noise to your photo and losing some of the quality and information. So if I was to want a print of this photo, what I would have done is I would have taken multiple exposures and blended them, which I will be getting into later in the series, but it's definitely more advanced. So for now, these I know I underexposed, but I did it knowing I could edit them properly still. So bring the highlights down, shadows up a little bit. Whites I always bring up, but highlights down a little bit more. So I'm just going to quickly edit this, and then the main thing I really want to show you guys is after Camera Raw. So open image, and now I'm going to do Command J, just so we're not working on our background layer. And what I can do to edit out this water is same thing we did last time, where we just make a selection and then do Camera Raw filter. Or another thing we could do is I could come up Camera Raw filter. I know that water has some highlights I'm not a big fan of, and I want to really shine some color on that. So, this photo looks like shit. However, this water looks incredible. And this water was extremely, extremely blue and turquoise. So, this is heavy on the saturation, but it's not steering away from reality. So I'm going to click OK. And now what we can do is, with a layer mask, either a white layer mask and brush everything out except for this, but in this case, because I want to color such a small part of this photo, I'm going to do Command I to inverse my photo, get that back to normal, and then I'm going to come over here, oops, I'm going to just toggle back to a white brush, make this brush really, really small, and have everything nice and big what I want to do. So go like 75% opacity. Just gonna make, oh, and sorry, I want to be on soft edge brush. Just gonna be making a rough selection. So we are just painting in pretty much that edit that we had just done. And the tops of these trees are pretty dark. I think it was just from where the sun was. So that actually plays in our favor, because if they had a lot of detail in them and we were painting our brush just carelessly, as I am, all of that blue would be coming out in the trees and it would look really off. But since they are very dark and don't have much detail, I can, for the most part, go right over them. I do recommend still being weary of that though, and trying not to go too much. For things like this in Photoshop, a lot of the things I do in Technique, for the most part, the more time you spend on them, it will show. You can achieve some really cool stuff really, really fast, but there's certain things, if you really take your time on a photo, it can just look so seamless, so incredible. So it does reflect the time you put in. But for now, just getting this rough in here. Yeah, these trees made this blending pretty easy. It's really nice. Alright, so before, after, and that's a huge, huge difference. So let's say one thing, let's say you, oh crap, you shot way over to where you wanted to paint. Another way to undo that is to click X or to toggle over to a black brush and just brush that right back out. So sometimes in certain photos I'll be switching from a white brush to a black brush back and forth a lot, kind of just making it perfect. So yeah, it looks really nice. And one thing, you know, if you do this and you're like, wow, that is just too blue, just take the opacity and lower it, let's say 50. That's a huge difference. So like kind of nothing, medium, or really high. I would probably, personal preference, put it around 80. I think that looks really nice.